His face was painted red like blood, and he wore a helmet in the shape of a skull.
A Gadianton spy.
Gadiantons? I thought your enemies were Lamanites.
Not in my lifetime. Although many Gadiantons are Lamanites. Nephites, too. They're a secret society. Sorcerers and murderers. They swear bloody oaths, hide their crimes, and destroy anything that threatens them.
Welcome back to Boys Bible Study. Folks, we are the only podcasters that have been sealed for eternity in the afterlife. We will continue podcasting not only in this earthly realm, but also in the realm beyond, in eternal paradise. I'm Ash. I'm here with my co-hosts,
Scott
and Julian.
Today we have a pretty interesting and different episode for us. We've been doing this show for about a year and a half, and this is actually our first time covering a Mormon movie and the topic of Mormonism. I think there's a couple reasons for that. One, just because even among Christian sects, Mormonism has a very in-depth mythology that I honestly find kind of intimidating, even though I've read a bunch about it. Fortunately for us, our friend Daniela is here, and we are going to ask her about her background. She was a very, very helpful guide in explaining the movie we watched today. So welcome, Daniela. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate it. We watched this movie, Passage to Zarahemla, which is like, the name is like, we just watched the whole movie and it's still impossible for me to remember. Passage to Zarahemla, a 2007 film by Chris Heimerdinger. To start, when we were going through movies to watch, we said Passage to Zarahemla, and you were like, yes, let's do this one. Why is that?
Okay, so when we looked it up, I realized, I was like, that name seems really familiar. And I was like, I think this is the guy who wrote these young adult fantasy books about the Book of Mormon that I used to read as a kid, which he did. It was called the Tennis Shoe series. And it was about like a 90s boy and his friends and like mean like sister, like going back into time or like walking through a cave. And then they're back in the time of the Nephites and the Lamanites, which is like the old Mesoamerican Book of Mormon tribes. And so they were awesome. I loved them. Especially there was the one with the sister who like had a little romance with one of the cute little Nephite guards. So like I loved that one. So yeah, I would read these books, and it was just like this insane flashback because I was like, I had not thought about those books in forever. Yeah. And I was like, I think it's the same guy. And it was, and he made this movie and this whole other book series. So it was very exciting. I got really excited.
Yeah, it was great. It reminded me, oh God, what's that Christian book author? We did the film with all the spiders.
Oh, Frank Peretti?
Yeah. Is this guy Chris Heimerdinger? Is he like Mormon Frank Peretti? That's like kind of the vibe I'm getting from this guy.
I think Frank Peretti's a little darker. He's a little more thriller oriented.
Sure.
This is a little more young adult fantasy oriented.
I see. That makes sense. But yeah, this is Chris Heimerdinger's only film, and it is a direct adaptation of his own source material.
Well, he was writing it as a script.
I see.
And then it became a book. And then he adapted the book, which was adapted from the script into a movie.
Okay, Chris, calm down. Yeah, he also appears in the movie. Yeah. We do see Chris, and he wrote every song that's in the movie.
Not Incredible. Just the lyrics, but the music too, which is great.
A Renaissance man.
Yeah.
This guy's, what can't he do is what I'm curious.
I know. And he's a convert. He didn't even grow up Mormon, so it's like real special.
Really?
Yeah. So he converted when he was like 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think? What's your opinion of someone who like converts when they're 18? Like,
okay.
How would you characterize someone like that?
Well, I think, okay, so my parents both were converts. So I grew up Mormon, but my parents both converted while at college age. And that's really weird because it's like, who's in college wants to like join the church that doesn't even let you drink coffee. You can't drink, like you can't drink alcohol. You can't do anything. And
Did you say they met at Brigham Young?
yeah, they went to BYU.
So they went to BYU not as Mormons?
No, they converted. So my dad went to BYU for law school.
Oh,
He was
okay.
actually, for any Mormons out there, you might know my dad. He was the first Black student at the BYU Law School.
Wow.
Yeah, so my dad's like kind of a big Mormon deal, but not really. But like,
A BMD, a big Mormon deal.
yeah, I think he's still one of the like handful of Black BYU students, like alumna, because like he I think it's like a rotating, like every 5 years he has to be the one to give the speech on MLK Day. So it's
I see.
Oh my God.
yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, like it's like there aren't that many.
Wow.
Yeah. So my dad, so he was there for law school, and then my mom was 3 years younger than him, and so she went for undergrad. But she's from Spain, so she went to school like in her 20s. So she met missionaries while studying English, I think, in England.
Okay.
And one of them was cute. And so she started going, and then she
That's all it takes.
yeah, and I think her mom was always kind of searching for religion. Like I know Spain's like a very Catholic country, but like for a little while she was Jehovah's Witness. So I think if you're going from Jehovah's Witness to Mormon, that's like great. That's like an upgrade. So my mom was like, oh, okay, this doesn't sound horrible. So she went to BYU, and my dad, converted and went to BYU Law School, and they met there.
Well, it's interesting you bring up Jehovah's Witnesses because like that's another distinctly American, like Jehovah's Witnesses were more recent. Mormons, that was 1800s was when that began. But still, we're talking like distinctly American like sects of Christianity that have now spread throughout the world that are younger than the formation of the United States, like last couple hundred. These are not very ancient traditions.
Yeah.
These are like new. And Jehovah's Witnesses, we are, the three of us, I mean, are like particularly fascinated by them. Their movies are killer. I love.
I can imagine.
Honestly, until this one, I've seen maybe 5 Mormon movies in my life. I bet you've seen more, Scott.
Yes.
I was ready to say the Jehovah's Witnesses are way better filmmakers than the Mormons. I was like, their films are kind of boring. Like I like what they're saying, but their films are kind of boring. Not this one though. Passage to Zarahemla was, but yeah, that's interesting that your mom or your mom's family went from Jehovah's Witness to Mormon.
Yeah, they were only Jehovah's Witness for like a chunk of time in her youth. I think it was just like her mom was kind of always like testing. She was like trying out different religions, and then my mom converted, and then her whole family ended up converting.
Yeah.
And so then they all became Mormon, and they still are, I think both of her brothers did missions and all that stuff. So they're still in the church, but my mom no longer is.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
It's like for older people, it's kind of just, you go from religion to religion until you find the people who you like.
Yes.
You find your friends.
Yeah.
The ones that will guarantee you into heaven, I
I
think,
do
is the
think
one.
from I've had people come to my door from both the Jehovah's Witnesses and Church of Latter-day Saints, and I noticed that the Church of Latter-day Saints do a much better follow-up program. Like when I lived in San Francisco, they came to my door, and because I am who I am, and my whole goal is like, well, how do I get free movies from this person? And so I talked to them indefinitely, and then they kind of like read my apartment situation, and they're like, can we send somebody back later? And I was like, sure. And the people they sent back were different, and they were a little more, I would call them hipster Mormons.
Wow.
And they talked to us differently and wanted to talk about music and
They did
stuff.
the feel
And it
out
was-
game. And then they came back with the big guns for game 2.
You kids like the
Yeah,
Pixies?
it was interesting.
Yeah.
And they were they actually missionaries, the ones that came back?
Yeah.
Okay, so they were like 18-year-old boys.
Yeah, or like early 20s, something like that. Yeah, so I guess I don't actually know if they were missionaries or not. I just assumed.
They have the tag? Did they have the black tag on their pocket?
Yeah.
Okay, so then they were missionaries.
Okay.
So only if they're called elder or sister, and if they have a black like name tag. Also, usually the men have a white button-up T-shirt, like a short sleeve button-up.
Yeah, they all had white button-up shirts.
Yeah.
I say.
Yeah. And in San Francisco, power thighs, because they use bikes. That's like a big thing. Is Mormon missionaries bike everywhere.
I guess the hills.
Yes. So
That's cool.
my younger brother did the Spanish speaking Oakland mission. He came back with thighs like a speed skater. Wow. Because he biked everywhere, and they like they rely on food from like they get like a $200 a month allowance. Like it's crazy. You pay to go on a mission. They give you like barely any money. You're not allowed to make money. You don't get sent money. You live off of like, I don't know, it's probably not $200 a month, but it's very little. And so basically like they are trying to get invited over for dinner. That's like, I think they keep them hungry.
They send you hungry.
Yes.
Really hungry.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So they're like, please, I just want some spaghetti. Like they're like, they really want to get people to like listen to them so they can get some food.
That
Whoa.
rocks.
Yeah.
Jeez, I wish I had known that. I would have offered some snacks.
Oh, but then they would be back all the time. You can't. They're like, Mormon missionaries are like if you give a mouse a cookie of religions. Like you cannot give them anything because they will take.
Well, another thing about like the transition from Jehovah's Witness to Mormonism is interesting because like Jehovah's Witness, I would in general describe as like pretty no frills. Like it's very extreme. Like there's very, to people who aren't familiar, they might find the views very unusual, but it's very no frills. Whereas Mormonism, on the other hand, to me is like many frills. Mm-hmm. Like it's like like you can, as I was doing during the movie to try to catch up a little bit, like gentle listeners, Boys Bible Study listeners, if you're not familiar, just go on the Wikipedia page for Mormonism. Like just click around, just find a term you don't know, click, and it's like an endless train of like references to different texts, alternate histories, like we'll get into with talking about this movie. Maybe my question then, Daniela, is like, what is something related to, we're certainly not going to be able to like pack everything into this episode, but it's just like, what is something that you think maybe people haven't heard of when it comes to Mormonism that they might find interesting?
Well, I always think of Mormonism to me is a very bureaucratic religion. Like it's all about paperwork. Okay. So, and I think that's like it's like a modern religion. It's like, I think it's really tied to kind of like, there's like secret handshakes and stuff like Mason stuff,
yes.
That comes with like the temple, but it's like very bureaucratic. And church, first of all, for church, it's like a bishop, instead of having like a priest, you're not someone that goes to like seminary and like learns how to be like a pastor and all this stuff. Like that's like, no, bishops at Mormon churches it's a calling. So that's what basically every adult gets a calling, and that's like you have to do like a certain job for like a chunk of time. And so you get called to be the bishop. And so it's just someone's dad suddenly is like running the church for like a chunk of time. Whoa. And like they're the person that you go and you're supposed to go check with your bishop, and you talk to them and you give them like, marital problems, and like it's just Greg. Yeah. Greg is a bishop, and he's going to be the bishop for like the year, and then he's someone else, So that's really weird.
Yeah.
And you get calling. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, real quick. Does Greg ever like take advantage of that? You're like Greg of the year or whatever.
Well, that's where there's like a big thing right now happening in Utah. So it's like a therapist, like a weird therapy session or whatever. Like you go to the bishop, and it's like a regular dude that doesn't know how to handle any of your crises, or like domestic violence is a big thing too, because it's like you go and you say like, "Hey, my husband's hitting me," and like. It's Greg. Greg doesn't know what to deal with that, but he's the bishop. You're supposed to listen to him, and like there's somebody that knows something,
Right.
And like they're like, well, just don't do the thing that makes your husband mad, and like so there's like a lot of issue now with like how do we deal with this? This is a bad system where bishops are giving really bad advice. They don't know how to handle some really hard, difficult aspects of like their, the lives of the people in their church and stuff. And so there's definitely been bishops taking advantage of young women, because you go, again, the bureaucratic aspect, like you have to go talk to your bishop to get a temple recommend. So when you are, I forget what age, I'm going to say like 13, 14, it was right after I left, or like I left before I got to this age, you can start doing baptisms for the dead, which I'm sure you've heard of. That's like a big famous thing that Mormons do, which is that's why they're really into genealogy. They will look up every death certificate and they will baptize in your, like, you will physically go to the temple, and it's usually young kids, teen kids, and you will take on that person's name and you will be baptized for them so that they will be able to go into, there's no hell in Mormon, like, they don't believe in hell. It's just like a tiered system. So there's, if you look it up, I forget, there's like 3. There's like the top one, which is like God. You get to walk around and get to be a God eventually.
Yeah.
There's the
I have a question
secondary
about
one.
that next.
Okay,
Go on.
yeah. There's the
Go
secondary
on.
one. And then the third one is just like, it's like kind of like the world. It's like, it's fine. It's just like you don't get to hang, like Jesus sometimes might visit you, but you don't get like all the good perks. But there's no really like horrible hell. So anyway, they believe that you can't make it to ascend all the way to the top unless you're baptized. So they're like,
Gotcha.
oh, let's fix this. Like, here's a solution for all the people that didn't know about like Mormonism before. We'll just go and baptize them and they can make that choice and they'll be free to go up and stuff like that.
Just theoretically, so if you just live your life however the fuck you want, and then, but like put it in your will, like have me baptized once I'm dead and gone. Is that like a good workaround to still like ascend all the way?
If you know if you know about it, then you have to get baptized. If you can't just like, put it off until like after and then be like, well, I did all my sinning and now like, yeah, no, it's like if you learn of the church and don't get baptized, then you're like, well, you chose not to, and so you're not like you don't get to go up to heaven or whatever. So it's like for the people that literally had no way of knowing about it, they didn't get to have the lesson and stuff. But yeah, so to be able to go do that, you need to get a temple recommend, and to do that, you have to go to your bishop and you have to do a bishop's interview. And they ask you all these questions. Are you having sex or drinking or whatever? And so so it's like a bunch of teens have to tell the bishop, Greg the bishop, these things and whatever. And like, yeah. And so you're alone with the bishop, and so it's like, someone can take advantage of you knowing all your like deepest, darkest secrets, whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have to get all that. And then you get almost like a vaccination card. You get your temple card that you keep in your wallet, and then you're able to go and do all this stuff. So yeah, oh my God, the paperwork. I'm telling you guys, like sealing, we can talk about that later, but yes, so much paperwork.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, what is so incredible about this religion is that, it will, for us to talk about every concept would like take hours and would be, so, that being said, I really have to ask you about your idea of exaltation, because like that has got to me is just like, it's really wonderful. It's like, I cannot think of another religion, certainly not one in the Christian tradition, that promises like such a level of spiritual achievement. Honestly, the only thing this isn't Christian, but the only thing I can think of that reminds me of this is Scientology.
Yeah.
Like Scientology is another it's like tiered, like constant, like progression toward the divine, to the idea that like you as a human soul can basically be God.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. Would you mind talking a little bit about that concept?
Well, that's the stuff that actually I came to learn about after I left the church. So I left when I was around 11. So I didn't learn too much about that in school or like in church, which is 3 hours long. I think actually they dropped it down to 2 because I think it was hurting getting converts.
The standard was 3 hours.
It was 3 hours. It was 1 hour of sacrament, which is everyone, again, we don't have like a pastor who sermonizes or anything. It's just like people come up and they are called to do like a little talk. They have to do a little speech.
That must feel so much longer than
Yes.
than 3
yeah.
hours.
And it's not good music. It's so lame.
Well,
and then
we heard the soundtrack to the movie.
I wish it was like that.
Chris is writing anyway.
Yeah. And then you do the sacrament, which is water and torn up pieces of white bread. It's not even, it's torn up pieces of white bread.
Oh, man.
And so that's an hour. And then you do an hour of an age group. So like the kids do primary, the teens do like the teen one, and then the adults go do the adult one. And then that's with both the sexes together. And then another hour where they're separated or maybe I don't know. There's 2 hours of like other stuff that's just annoying. But yeah, you like. Oh, sorry. What was the question? I forget. Now.
Talking about exaltation, and you were saying how you didn't learn. You were 11 when you left. So yeah.
So I didn't really learn about that afterwards, and that's like it's touchy because I like my father and my younger brother, who is 30, are still involved in the church. And when I ask them about this stuff, they get all huffy because it's like ridiculous, and then they're like, "It's not ridiculous, it's real." But I didn't know that part of it was like I just knew that there's 3 levels of heaven, and I didn't realize that if you get to the highest level, you become a god. If you're a man, women don't get to. So,
okay.
Yeah.
That sounds fair.
Yeah.
Anyway, go on.
Yeah. If you're a man, but that you get to become a god of your own. Like I had no idea. And I was like, if I had known,
you would
I
have
stayed.
stayed.
Like, are you kidding me?
You
Like,
should lead with this.
Lead with that.
I like all I knew was like choose the right and like whatever. Like I did not know that was like the promise that like, cause I was always like, if I make it to the 2nd level, I'm feeling good. Like that's the one where like Jesus comes and hangs a lot, but like you can't go up to follow him, you know, but you get a like hanging. It's like, I was like 2nd tier feels like a sweet spot. You get like, you know, it was like the fun people that weren't too good, you know, but if I had known like I got to be a god, I would have tried for the level, you know, the highest level.
Well, according to Wiki, it's like you have to go through these particular like ordinances to be even like eligible for that state, which includes what I joked about when we introed the pod, which is like the idea of sealing, like the marriage being sealed or being like you can be like sealed to your parents in some way.
Yeah, so we're automatically sealed. I'm automatically sealed to my parents.
Yeah.
And by being born. So a big thing like with adoption is like that's a big thing is you go to the temple and you go and there's a sealing room, which if you ever get a chance, if there's ever a Mormon temple built like near a new one, go to the open house. That would be the only time you'll ever be able to get in there. You won't be able to see every room.
Wow.
But it's the only way I've been able to go to temple because again, I left before I was of age.
Right.
But you'll get to see the baptism for the dead tubs, which usually is like gold oxes and these like cool tubs. And then the sealing rooms are like these like infinity mirror type things. There's like, it's all very secretive. Like you only have access to things if you go.
So cool.
It's very cool. You want to go. So you get the teaser. The open house is cool because you get to see a lot, but you don't get everything. And so you get sealed, like adoptions, you go and you seal your family together forever. Weddings. So the big thing is like there's a wedding reception and you always go to the Mormon temple and then the couple will go and get sealed together in the special sealed room and like all this stuff, which again, I'm not privy to. But what's really funny about that is my parents, my mom, my dad were married. They got divorced. And I learned like when I was like 13 that my mom and my dad, like my mom's like, oh, he remarried. And he's like, yeah, well, now he has 2 wives in the afterlife. And I was like, what? I was like, but you're divorced. She's like, yes, we're divorced here, but I didn't fill out the paperwork to like unseal us. Like, so she's like, it's too annoying. I don't want to deal with it. So she's
paperwork, like you said,
like
paperwork.
It's paperwork. So she is still married in the afterlife to my dad.
Wow.
Yeah. And she's like, it's not worth it to deal with that. And I was like,
luckiest
so
guy in the
funny.
afterlife.
What's going to happen in the afterlife, though? Are they going to have to hang out all the time again?
I don't
That's
know, but
gonna be awkward.
he's got 2
I'm
wives.
saying.
He's sealed to 2 of his wives. So
How's that gonna
Oh
work
boy,
out?
imagine
Yeah.
the nagging. Right?
I am sealed to 2 amazing podcast co-hosts, and we're gonna be talking for all time.
That's
But yeah, I mean, again, so much there. But I think like the next thing I want to bring up, because this is like going to be pretty important to talking about passage to Zarahemla, is the idea of the alternative history of the United States of America as presented through the Book of Mormon. Listeners, if you watch this film or if you hear us discuss it, it rewrites history. It's very interesting. This was actually brand new to me. I had not done a lot of
rewrites your
research.
idea of history.
True. That's very true. But yeah, it was new to me. Daniela, can you talk a little bit about like what is supposed to have happened in the United States? Like not to like get into like too much in the weeds with historical stuff, but if you can fill in any of those gaps, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, so you're talking about like the tribe, like the Book of Mormon.
Yeah,
okay.
definitely them first.
Yeah. Okay, so I think the biggest thing, in which is why a lot of Christians they think of Mormons as a cult and don't actually consider them real Christians.
Correct.
Is that, yeah.
Sorry.
I know. I've been.
That's what I was taught growing up.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And I was like, yeah, people would say that all the time. And I was like, I don't care. I'm not really Mormon, but whatever. But anyways, the biggest thing is that they believe that after Jesus was resurrected, that he came back he went to the Americas to see the people there too. And so that's like a big thing, which I didn't realize was weird. I thought that was like, but that's, oh yeah, the resurrection. Wait, this extra thing didn't happen? Oh, I didn't know that. I thought that was normal. I thought that was everyone's resurrection story. So yeah, so he goes to the Americas. And so I was trying to Google this. I might be wrong. Like, this is all a little hazy.
Sure,
it's based off of like kids' cartoons, which I will find the VHSs and send you guys because I think you will love them.
Oh, please.
They're
That'll be
so
great.
good. Because this is one of my favorite stories. I was telling Julian this one is, I believe, so the Mormons believe in the 12 tribes of Israel.
Right.
Okay. And so then there is one tribe, or a few maybe, that went to the promised land, which is the Americas. I don't know if it's technically just the United States or if it's I always, for whatever reason, as a kid, assumed it was South America, but it could be United States where all this happened. So the story there is the brother of Jared. So the brother of Jared, him and his brother, Jared, were there for the Tower of Babel. Is that a Bible or
Tower
is that
Babel,
Book of Mormon?
yeah.
Babel? Okay,
That's,
Babel.
yeah, that's in. I don't know. Babel. It doesn't matter. But yeah, that's Old Testament.
That's okay. So that
yeah.
is okay.
Exodus,
So
and
okay.
Genesis.
That's
I wanna
canon.
say.
Sometimes
Yeah,
I can't
that's canon.
remember whether it's a Book of Mormon or Bible. Okay, so that's
Sure,
canon. Okay,
sure.
so they were supposedly there. So that's cool. But anyways, they were like, we need to go to the promised land. So they made these like insane cool submarine boats to travel across the ocean, like with all their people. And in the cartoon, they look like almonds. They're just like these brown things, like slick with a whatever. And they're like submarines. And the whole thing is like, we need to get across, but it's sealed and dark. And we need to find a way to have light inside these boats without like fire or whatever. And the brother of Jared was like, yo, God, I think I need you to do me a favor. I found these 12 super white rocks. Will you touch them and bring them light? And the hand of God comes down and touches all of them. And brother Jared like passes out and like has like a fit or whatever. And then God's like, yo, you can't see me, but it's like too much for you. But like, here are your stones. And then they like use those to light the way. And then they get to the promised land. And I assume that is how they explain the people in the Americas.
Yes.
Yes. So how they got there. And so those became the Jaredites, the Lamanites, the Nephites, and there's another one that I don't remember.
The Nephites, if you listening may remember, we mentioned in the very beginning, because what was the name of his book series?
Tennis shoes. The tennis shoe series in the first one, I believe, is Tennis Shoes Among the Nephites.
Among the Nephites.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the Nephites, it always kind of flip-flops between, it was confusing as a kid who were the good and the bad. So the Nephites and the Lamanites, usually I think the Lamanites were bad.
Yeah.
But that might just because lame is in their name. So I might be wrong.
Sure.
But there was one good guy, Samuel the Lamanite. He was a really important prophet that had a great children's song. So you look that one up, Samuel the Lamanite. That's a great, it's so good. It's all, he got shot, they were shooting arrows and they didn't touch him because he was a good prophet. Oh my God, it's such a good story. Wow. Anyways, so yeah, the Lamanites usually bad, Nephites are good. And they're always at war with each other. And so the people of this Zarahemla story, if you want me to kind of explain the background there.
Please.
These are these people. I don't know if he's necessarily a Nephite, the main guy. I forget his name.
I think he is supposed to be a Nephite.
Was it Kadari, Kid Leroy, Gadolfi, like Ganondorf?
I'm looking it up right now. It's Kidoni.
Kidani.
Yes.
Okay. So I believe he's a Nephite.
I think so.
Yeah. And it's, so there's, the big bads are the Gadiantons.
The Gadiantons. We hear quite a lot about the Gadiantons.
Yes.
in this
Yeah.
movie.
Yes. And I was like, that sounds familiar. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. They are like always the bad guys because they are not a tribe. They're a group of just bad boys.
I looked. They are listed as like an ancient like criminal society in the Americans. That is like the definition of the fucking all these terms. The Gadiantons. I'm like having to look at my notes every single time I say one.
Yeah. The Gadiantons. And they're made up of Nephites, Lamanites. They're just bad of all. All the bad dudes go join these guys, and they just like wreak havoc, and you're always trying to fight them and get rid of them.
They're not sending their best.
No, they're not. But I guess like, it's funny because through all the stuff that, people talk about as being weird about Mormonism, the exaltation, the people always joke about, the special underwear and all these things. Sure, that stuff is very interesting, but like I honestly find this aspect the craziest because it's like
lore.
The what?
The lore.
Yes, because it's like it explains why the Mormons are like the chosen people of the United States. It's like this really elaborate lore to say like how Mormons interact with like the native people of the United States. Like it creates this like alternative history that like puts them there. And there's like an appreciation for them, but there's also this idea that like we are the chosen people. I'm assuming at the time, like mostly like white Mormons, we are like the chosen people. Jesus Christ like resurrected to us. And in a way, I almost feel like they see themselves as like indigenous people of the United States. Like they like wrote themselves as like this type of indigenous people in the United States. It's very fascinating.
Yeah. I don't know how much, again, like this, I'm not really sure how much like Joseph Smith, if he believes like the Mormons are of descendants of these people, or as much as he's like, just like, oh, I found the plates. I am chosen to like learn this religion and to spread this knowledge and stuff. So I don't know how much it is that Mormons believe they come from the Nephites and the Lamanites or whatever. I almost feel like, I think Mormon and Moroni are father and son or something like that. I feel like they like bury the plates because they were like dying off. So I'm not exactly sure how much they believe that they are actually descended from
carrying
them.
the torch.
Yeah.
I
So I don't know. Yes, it is weird because, the Mormons, when they went to Utah, weren't really that great to the indigenous people.
Right.
So I can't imagine they believe they're the same. I think that they believe almost like the good ones died off and the bad people lived on, and as an excuse to kind of excuse their behavior. So I think there's a really dark history there and belief system there. But I'm not sure. So I don't want to, that might be extra reading. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely a lot of extra reading for.
Yeah. But there were Black Mormons that went to find Utah.
I see.
And I know this because my dad was in a play about it called I Am Jane. And I'm sure you can Google that somewhere. And it's all about the Black Mormons that walked, did the whole trek to.
Whoa.
Yeah. I Am Jane.
Our spin-off Christian theater review
Yeah.
podcast
should
cover
my
I Am
dad
Jane.
would love it. My dad was in the original as Jane's husband. And my dad's a lawyer, but I think he has a creative side, and he paid for and brought back the revival of it so that he could be in it again because he had so much fun. So yeah,
wow,
yeah.
cool.
So
regular auteur.
So yeah, if you ask maybe nicely, my dad would probably be like, "Oh, there's some interest. Okay, I'll do I'm Jane again."
Okay, so gentle listeners, we've set the stage a little bit here. We've introduced our writer, director, author, Chris Heimerdinger, and his movie, The Passage to Zarahemla. We've also vaguely introduced the concept of the Nephites and the Gadiantons and the Lamanites as their sort of alternate history, like Native Americans. I think we should really get into talking about the film we just watched. I think this might be a great time to really dig into the film and review it. So where should we start? I guess it would be good to talk about the actual protagonists of the film, the brother and sister, and how they come to be among the promised land. They come from the dark purgatory of Los Angeles into the promised land. What happens with them?
Yeah, so Any characters?
Sorry.
Well, you
Kerra
can't
and
forget
Brock.
Sakura.
Yeah.
You know, which is, what is it? Japanese.
I
Kerra
do
and
want to
Brock.
add. Yes, I do want to add really quick. The main character is a woman named Kerra or Sakura. In the film, it says that she was named Sakura because that's Japanese for cherry blossom. I just, as a weeb myself, I want to point out that that's actually Sakura.
No one's called me Sakura in forever.
Oh, your father named you that. Little cherry blossom. Japanese, I think.
They also spell Kira Kerra, which I've never seen that combination of letters before as an English speaker. So anyway.
Very Mormon names.
Okay.
Mormon names are very spelled insane.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Like my my brother will never listen to this because whatever. But I was like, he went to New Orleans with his friend Brichelle. It's like, what is that? That's not a name, But like that is very Mormon,
So Kerra and Brock, we open on them. Their mother has passed away from a drug overdose, and they're facing being put in a foster home. So they escape the grasps of the social worker and the gang that's after them. The very progressive portrayal of underprivileged youths in Southern California that need some mystery bag from them, the MacGuffin. And they head out to Utah, where some relatives from their father's side of the family live, who are Mormons. And they're welcomed with open arms. And from there, things get a little strange in southern Utah.
Yeah. And they're Mormon because there's 11 children.
Yes.
There's 11 children. This movie, the Mormon aesthetic is so fascinating.
Yes.
They
Or,
nailed
like,
it.
It's like so wild that it's like such a like frontier religion, and so centric around like the Wild West and like the conquering of the American West. But it's just like houses that are like airlifted out of like suburbia and just put in the middle of the desert. So you just see like this like white picket fence. I don't even know how you would describe this architecture.
Just like 80s, 90s, box.
Just in the middle of a beautiful desert and nothing else for miles and miles.
Yeah, like a tradition of like decimating entire populations so you can put up like a knitted sign with a scarecrow that says like bless our home.
Yes. Everything about it was the best representation of Mormons because it's like real Mormons. They filmed in probably like the someone's house, like a cousin's house.
Yeah.
And it had like all the Mormon ad posters of the magazine is like my favorite thing. I got so excited.
Please mention that if you don't mind.
Yeah. Okay. So this was of that time. I don't know how many Mormons care about it now, but back in the day, all the cool Mormon teens would get the New Era magazine, which was the teen Mormon magazine. And it was like around the same time that the Got Milk ads were really big. And so everyone used to put Got Milk ads all over their walls. So the Mormons would put up they're called Mormon ads, and they would be these posters that you'd pull out of the magazine, and it was like say weird Mormon things, like phrases. So a classic one is send an email, KNEE, and it's a woman or young girl kneeling to pray.
Sure.
That's good.
Or open book tests, and it's like the Book of Mormon, open. Just so many things. It was all like, whatever. And I don't know why, but they were cool, and everyone always put them all over the wall. So those were all over that house. All the banana bread that was getting made.
Okay, tell that actually surprised you. She was like, "Oh, someone check on the banana bread," and Daniela was like, "That is so Mormon." And I was like,
Why don't you girls show Kerra where she'll be sleeping? I'll go get your uncle from the orchard. Tessa, you watch the banana bread. Coulter, Sarai, get the cats off the table. Come on, baby girl. Let's go get Daddy. Oh. Yes, we get the cats off the table. Huh?
Why is that Mormon?
Okay, banana bread, but even more so zucchini bread. I think one because
Both delicious. Let's be honest.
zucchini bread is so good. Okay, so zucchini bread one because it's like Utah is like not a great place to like grow food or anything. So like zucchini can grow anywhere, and there's like tons of them. And you're like, what do I do with all this zucchini? You make zucchini bread, and every Mormon mom or woman I feel like can make really good zucchini or banana bread and homemade caramels. And I think it's because like the soft good ones. And I think it's because when you when you're a woman or you do Relief Society, and Relief Society is like you meet up like I don't know if it's every week or like once a month, and it's like all the women, and you learn how to be like a good wife, and it's a lot of it is like recipes,
Cracker Barrel gift
yes,
stuff, gift shop.
yeah, it's like a lot of it is like cooking and like all this stuff and like weird things that's like really like messed up, like woman stuff, but like yeah, it's like mainly cooking and banana bread and zucchini bread. That's just like always you get so much of that. The home teachers will bring it and everything. So it's nice.
A lot of attention to detail then in this film. It really seems like they had it down. And honestly, I thought like, to me, like what I got from this film is basically like creating an aura of mystery and mysticism out of that, which was just so funny to see. Like, yeah, like people being like the young girls in the household being like, do you hear the whistlers at night? And like making all this like eerie sort of mystical stuff so they can have these really like cathartic experiences in a house that looks just like, yeah, like the skeleton of like a suburban house you would design in The Sims, you know, is like,
Yeah.
It just is like the most like mundane type of setting. And like this film created this like very intense, like spiritual journey around that. I thought that was really funny. We should talk about their father, because that creates a pretty interesting plot point in the story. Scott, if you want to talk about their father.
Yeah, he left them when Kerra was 5.
Yeah.
Either when
Something
Kerra
like
was
that.
5 or Brock was 5. I don't remember
Something
which.
like that.
They don't know why, but we pretty much assume from the beginning that he is the hunter who gets attacked by some Native American tribe who just like appears out of nowhere.
In the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
That's our cold open before we see the
Yes.
Kerra and Brock.
Perhaps they might have come out of some sort of mystical passage.
I
we
do
think.
want to point out again the bureaucracy in that the whole plot point is that he shot an elk without the license.
I thought that was really
Like,
I thought that was so endearing, honestly, that like he did it and
They do make a
like,
big deal of that.
made a big deal out of it, and he was like, "Oh, they were like, you're gonna get fined,
Yeah.
like don't bring
and
it
they
back."
bring it up again, like later
Yeah.
on, 12 years later.
12 years
Yeah,
later. Very
his friend
memorable.
was like, "I thought he ran away because he didn't have a license for that."
Grandpa says you were with him the day he disappeared.
That's right. He shot a bull elk without the proper license. I knew his life was a mess. Like everybody else, I just figured he'd had enough of it all and took off.
And it's like, it's also so funny because it was just like, just the respect for the bureaucracy, whereas just like you live out in the middle of nowhere and like are for lack of a better way of describing it, just making up your own rules for life and eternity. And you're still like, well, you know, you aren't like, well, it's just a bullshit law. I don't need a permit to do this. You're like, no, we have to have the proper permit to shoot this elk or whatever it was.
The Mormon church trains them. You know, actually, this is really interesting fun fact that Mormons are one of the most highly sought after for like CIA agents.
I have heard
That
that.
makes
Yes.
so much sense.
I have heard that, but I didn't really
Interesting.
know why.
Yeah, well, because they're really good at following direction and all that stuff. And they like do these Mormon missions and like they have great language skills. And so they're like truly, if you're a CIA, you want Mormons because they follow rules. They don't do drugs or alcohol. So you don't have to worry about that. And then so many of them spent 2 years learning a language at a local like slang level. Okay. Like, so they are really good at infiltrating Russia or Cuba or wherever you go because these missionaries go and they learn that at like 18 for 2 years and they're like in the culture. So they know that the language at a cultural level as well. Wow. So it's like, they're very sought after.
Also seems to be a lot of don't question why this is a rule. This is just the rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also interesting that like, I mean, I don't know. It's just funny because like, I mean, you know, one's own opinions about like hunting and stuff, but it's just, I found it interesting that like this like sort of botched hunting expedition was like the kickoff of this like very spiritual journey. It was like, it's funny because like later on, Kira's aunt, who she ends up staying with, you know, with the big Mormon family, she says stuff like, you know, her dad would have never left the family. Like, you know, he's this like, you know, upstanding Mormon. And it's just, that may be true, but it's just funny the information that we're given right at the beginning. It's like he like shoots the wrong animal on this like bungling like hunting expedition and then like ends up disappearing. It's just like, it was just a weird way of like hero building. I don't know. I didn't try not to make like a value judgment, but just he was portrayed as they're all kind of like slobby and like bumbling and stuff. I don't know. It was very strange. I've never seen something quite like that in a
Weird
movie.
that they weren't drunk. Like I forgot that they weren't drunk because they
would
were
have had to be sober.
Yeah, they were sober.
Right.
Yeah.
I have noticed though, maybe this is incorrect, Daniela. You can please correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like Mormons are a little bit better about like joking about themselves than like most sects of Christianity are.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like, especially because I think Mormons are so mainstream. So like, if you get like the crazier, more like serious, I mean, like the Orthodox version of a Mormon, I guess, like they are probably less fun to be around or to poke fun of. I think. Yeah. Okay, so I lived in Utah for a little bit, and my dad lives in Utah now, and that's like the hub of Mormons. So I think that everyone's Mormon there, but like they're all really lax. But it's the Mormons outside of Utah that tend to be the more annoying and difficult ones because they're like truly a minority, and they feel like they're always getting like poked fun at and stuff. Right. And so then they're like less fun. But yeah, Mormons are really like, they don't mind getting made fun of. They're really friendly, like regular schmegular people, you know?
Yeah.
Like very materialistic. Number one, they highest amount of boob jobs is Salt Lake City.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
I didn't know that.
It seemed like that's just the vibe you get from this house and this family. It's just like, suburbia is a religion.
Yeah.
It's so wild.
That's a good call.
Yes, that to me is like Mormonism. Like that's like what I'm sort of trying to like work through here in so many words is like, yeah, it is a religion about like the American lifestyle as we know it, about like the American consumerist lifestyle, or whatever you want to call it, just like any combination of these like buzzwords.
It's like if you cut out all the sad parts of Revolutionary Road. And it was just like the perfect life.
It is. It's like it's a suburban dream for sure. It's very materialistic. I think it has like high boob jobs and also a lot of debt. I think it's just like it's so much of the Mormon,
keeping up with the Joneses, keeping up with the Gregs,
and not having a billion kids,
keeping
but
up with the Hinkleys, keeping up with one of those Mormon last names. I'm trying to.
So is Real Housewives of Salt Lake City a semi-accurate representation then?
Yeah, I mean they're the extreme, but like that's not too far off.
Wow,
for sure. And I think there's a lot of insane pressure for women to have nice bodies and stuff, even if they're covered up.
Sure.
So I feel like so many people are Mormon and they don't even realize it in our country.
That's interesting. Yeah.
If they drank alcohol and like drank coffee, I feel like there'd be so many more Mormons.
There'd be no difference.
Yeah.
Most people.
Yeah, it would be the state religion.
Yeah.
We'd
they can be materialistic and work towards being a god. I mean, that's what a lot of people think.
That's so true.
And they're seem very nice, but are like just like horribly homophobic behind the scenes. Like that is like what I feel like is like
Sounds
Mormons feel very American.
Most of America.
Yeah.
American suburbia.
So, there's a lot of plot details, especially with regards to like, why they're on the run from Los Angeles. They're being, pursued by the law, basically. The two kids, I mean, Kerra and her little brother, Brock. Kerra, I want to say, speaks exactly like how I imagine a young Marianne Williamson would speak. She just has this very like very serious, very mystical, has this sort of like mature husky voice for her age. Anyway,
for the age that she's playing.
Yes,
she's a 17-year-old when She was born the same year I was, so that means she was like 26.
Oh, really?
This movie's out,
she
yeah.
looks young, but yeah, that's
But
funny.
she is what I always said is the Mormon Megan Fox. Like she
yes.
is.
Yes,
Yes.
that's dead on.
Yes.
Yeah, but a really important plot point of this film is that when she was a little kid, she had a magical imaginary friend.
Downey the
named-
magical boy.
Yes,
That's what they call him. Not his real name.
What was it? Downey?
They say Downey the magical boy is what her cousins say to
or
her.
Donnie the magical boy or something like that.
Hey, do you still talk to that Donnie kid?
Who?
Kid Donnie, your imaginary friend? Oh, that's what I remember most about you. You used to spend hours talking to him.
Yeah, well, I made all that up.
Well, duh. It's not like I thought you believed he was real.
Like Donnie the Kid? Was he a cowboy?
Oh, no, he was a boy. A magical boy, right, Kira?
Kadani.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
This is later revealed to be the Nephite tribesman Kidani. For whatever reason, Sakura has this sort of supernatural ability at the specific place in the city of Leeds in southern Utah, where there is at least in this film, maybe in real life, there's like a fault line and earthquakes are prone to happen. This also becomes this mystical breeding ground where there's like a rift in between worlds. And Kira has this gift of like sight beyond sight where she can commune with Kidani. He was her imaginary friend when she was young. He was this little boy who lived in the woods. And she comes back there. She can still see him. He's all grown up. He's hot. He is a Hawaiian actor named Moroni Kanekoa. Moroni.
Yeah, Moroni.
I see. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm now learning this is like a typical Mormon name.
Not typical, but yes.
I just want to say she notices that he's grown up, but like 10 minutes or like fucking 25 minutes before, given the pacing of the first half of this movie, when she meets her like one of her boy cousins who's like her age, she's also like, you've grown up.
Yes.
So creepy.
Yes.
And they're just like tease flirting with her the whole time.
Oh yeah,
so
the comment,
weird. Yeah,
the comment from the friend, like, "Oh, that's your cousin. Too bad."
Yeah,
right. Yes. Yeah, that's pretty cool. But no, her only love interest in the film is Kidani. They have this kind of like hot kind of, implied little like fling going on.
They have a past.
They do, which I imagine is like very romantic. I put myself in like reading like YA fantasy. Like a very common theme is this sort of like finding a hot boy in like another dimension, either like of another culture, whether that's like a fantasy culture or like a real culture that's being, in fiction or like, yeah. And it's like, here we have this sort of like exoticism in the film of like her having this like hot, like vaguely like Native American boy, but he's also like from another time.
Yes.
So it's like this vaguely erotic like YA fixation on the other, which like goes throughout the movie.
Dude, it's my favorite book from the series.
I'm sure.
Focused on that. And so now I need to read this one, like this whole new series, because I was like, oh, I loved it.
Yeah. There's also just like random characters. Another really funny character is her grandpa, Lee. He's this eccentric grandpa who seems to understand her like gift, her sight beyond sight. He also like makes violins and like collects like Stradivarius like violins. It's insane.
And he looks like he's not so secretly Santa Claus.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Looks exactly like Santa Claus. However, he proves like really useful at that later scene in the story when like the gang from Los Angeles like finds them and hunts them down. And he like comes in and he like has guns.
Busts in with two like M16s.
Yes.
And a rocket launcher.
Yeah. Why did he have all those violins hanging from a tree outside of his workspace? I thought that was going to get explained.
It was just like the most ham-fisted, like all things through God sort of thing. Where when he was like, "Look, I write on the inside, made by God."
I also didn't realize that that was her grandpa at first because it felt like they were meeting for the first time, especially the really awkward scene where he plays for her. And she says it was the most beautiful sound she's ever heard. Like, that's a weird thing to like say to your grandpa. And like, it doesn't feel like there's any familial love there. It was like very much saying something to like appease a stranger.
Right.
She says that, and then he says, that means you have a special gift. It's like, is that what that means?
Beautiful.
Think so?
One of the most beautiful sounds I've ever heard.
Most folks would say it's just another violin. But you hear it. You have the gift. You always did. Even when you were little, you could hear things, feel things few others could.
It's like when you laugh at some old guy's joke that's like not funny, but you know he wants you to laugh. It's like, I imagine it being like, you have a special gift of understanding. It's like a similar concept. A lot happens. There's a lot of moving in between dimensions. We find out that Kidani is actually some sort of a watchman who is waiting for an invasion of Gadiantons.
The Gadiantons, yeah.
Which is, again, really just like overwrought.
I'm a Nephite, a warrior in the army of Captain Gidgidoni. This is my outpost. I watch for enemy spies.
Enemy spies.
Robbers of Gadianton. They infest these mountains and forests like vermin. They are vermin. My people have gathered all their possessions to Zarahemla in self-defense.
To Zarahemla.
Our capital. You cannot mean you do not know the great city of If not an angel, what are you?
A girl. Just a girl. This is America. Utah. Over there's a little town called Leeds.
There are no cities that way. Just jungles and mountains to the sea.
There's no jungles here.
There are. I'm just trying to hit some of the funny beats of the movie, you know, without getting too hung up on details. But like, one of the climax really of the movie is the Gadiantons breaking through the rift and entering modern Mormon society and sort of having a fun time going through it. Maybe we should talk about that for a second.
And at the same time that a gang who for some reason is following Brock gets there too.
Yes.
You know, it's one of those, it's a movie where the bad guys from the past are like parallel with the bad guys from the present. And all the bad guys in the present are the only people of color who are not from 400, like 1,000 years ago.
Right.
Very troubling. But yeah, they what were we talking about? What was the point of this?
The now like the native tribes who are now interacting with like modern day society. They, you know how they come in through the rift and they're like driving a car and like going into like a bar and stuff like that.
Yeah. So we're seeing this like crossover between the guys, like the old timey bad guys, like poking a car with a spear, and the current day bad guys like busting into the house with a shotgun and like another assault rifle.
So this is really interesting because it sort of like plays with the idea of like cultural invasion in like two different ways. Because on one hand, the gang just barges into like the idyllic Mormon suburban house, like with their guns up, and it looks like a Facebook post. It looks like some.
This is what happens when you defund the police.
Yes. It looks like a MAGA person's fantasy of what like a liberal city is like. Like, don't you dare like try having your own,
day
like,
after Biden wins the election.
This is the America Biden wants. A gang like kicking in the door and being like, everybody, let's play a game called Shut Up or whatever.
And literally shooting the gun. That was like the craziest thing. That he just came in and just shot. Like, it's like there's 11 children. That's someone's bedroom upstairs. Like,
that kid's Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Again.
Oh yeah, there's a huge plot point with the Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
They did say that the word Yu-Gi-Oh in the movie, which I found pretty interesting. They said Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon in the film.
You want all my cards.
You what?
All my Yu-Gi-Oh, all my Pokemon. You want them all.
You think they cleared that?
I wonder. My guess is no. But
well, they're big into bureaucracy, though.
Yeah, I know.
Wow, that's true.
I'm just surprised because I feel like the author feels like a Digimon guy. You know, like, I just like I'm surprised that he was a Yu-Gi-Oh guy.
Actually, you know what? I can see Yu-Gi-Oh. I do not let me get in this this train for too long. I can see him as a Yu-Gi-Oh because Yu-Gi-Oh is very much about like you state an intention, and like every card has these very like you have to like assemble 4 cards to create like this like, you know, God card or whatever. And it's very, I don't know. I'm not as super deep into Yu-Gi-Oh lore, but even if you watch the show, I feel like it feels kind of bureaucratic to me. It's very much like, yeah, like I have to lay these things down in order to like say that you have to like state your intention many times.
Wow, you have to know so much lore to really fully understand this movie.
I agree.
Yeah.
This is pretty thematically dense.
The cultural invasion thing was so troubling. Just like the idea that by drawing this parallel between these two people who are only separated by time, it's like essentially implying that these people are descendants of the what are they called? The
Gadiantons. Yeah.
Gadiantons. I cannot pronounce that.
It's impossible.
I have it written like 4 different
I swear
ways.
every character said it slightly differently in the movie, though.
But the big line was just like, oh yeah, these people are just, you know, destined to be evil, was when Donnie said the Gadiantons need to attack because they're too lazy to do honest work, so they're starving.
Oh yeah.
So they have to invade.
We burned our crops before gathering to Zarahemla. The Gadiantons are too lazy to do honest work, so they're starving. They could attack at any moment. I must tell my captain.
That part was funny because Donnie says, I'll probably just put it in the audio clip, but Donnie says like they like sacrifice like some of their crops as an offering or something, but like the Gadiantons, they don't have any crops because they're too lazy to do honest work. So there was this little moment, it just kind of glazed over, but there was this little moment where it was like, you could maybe like, give them some of your like crops that you're going to burn.
I mean, let's analyze why people do.
So the good ones tithe and the Gadiantons don't tithe. So as you know, the Mormons, they tithe 10%. And you can tell either you're a good Mormon and you do gross, or you're a bad Mormon and you do net.
You know, one of my first introductions to this was when Ken Jennings was winning on Jeopardy. I remember watching that, and I remember learning that like his whole thing was he was going to like tithe 10% of no matter what he earned because he was a Mormon. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that was my first introduction to the Mormon tithing concept. Pretty cool.
Well, you know what? Tithing, you all kind of benefit from it because if you remember in Napoleon Dynamite, where he buys the VHS.
Famous Mormon movie.
Yes, famous Mormon movie. Napoleon Dynamite, where he buys the VHS tape that he learns the dance from, that was at a DI, which is Deseret Industries. That is like the Mormon Goodwill. And that's what tithing goes to. Yeah, DI is great. My dad... So every time he gets a divorce, my dad's multiple divorces now.
I see.
Goes full on like divorced dad, sad apartment or whatever. And I know because I'll open his fridge and it's all DI foods. And I will always remember one day going to his house and he's like, oh, I made pancakes. And I was like, oh, I like jam on my pancakes? Do you have raspberry jam? Yeah. It's on the table. It was a ketchup bottle of jam that you squeezed out and it was DI, Deseret Industries. And it's like 2 cents it's like the best place in the world. So yeah, that's what tithing goes to.
Wow.
And BYU,
cool.
BYU, like it's so cheap to go to school there. So
Oh shit.
yeah, they pay for all that.
Well, I love the Mormons.
Yeah, grad school.
You know, I mean, so yeah, we have this like multiple like invasions of the peaceful Mormon realm by various sects of evil. How does the film wrap up? How does the film end?
A lot of people die.
Yes.
I feel like, or a lot of people look like they're dead and then aren't dead because they just pull an arrow out of their body.
Yeah, the combat was pretty confusing.
Yeah.
It's also confusing because all the Gadiantons are already covered in blood.
Yes.
Yeah, they're just like, yeah. I mean, like, that's such a movie thing where, like, the bad guys are like, we're evil. We like skulls and blood.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed, I wanted more of this in the movie too, but when the Gadiantons are raiding the convenience store, they had, like, all junk food. Do you think that was on purpose?
Well, Mormons love they can't drink, so they eat a lot of sugar. So they love junk food. That's a big thing. Jello,
so that's okay.
ice cream. Yeah.
I get confused with the like no caffeine and soda thing. And
So no caffeine. Oh no, they have soda.
Oh, okay.
But like, I think caffeine's fine. It's like more hot. It's actually hot drinks, which is weird.
What?
But like, but people. So it was hot drinks. So people decided that for a while. I feel like it was really big in the 90s. I think they've relaxed on this. Was that meant no caffeine, and that's what was wrong with hot drinks. So then that was why Utah was you would buy caffeine-free Coca-Cola, which tastes like butt, but whatever. And I don't think caffeine-free is as big a deal now. People just drink soda. They just don't drink alcohol and like coffee.
But they're big into supplements and like oils
essential
and stuff.
Oils. Yes, huge.
I remembered what I was going to say to you earlier.
Okay.
Was I heard another podcast about how Orrin Hatch is like the reason why there's so many supplements and like vitamins and stuff. There's like almost zero regulation on anything.
Oh,
and it's because the whole industry is out of Utah.
Oh yeah. Oh, all of that, and they are really, really big into pyramid schemes. So I don't know if you remember those types.
It's just
that
America.
were big. Yeah,
America's Mormon.
Dude.
There's no way, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, it is. Oh, my dad is a lawyer. Okay, so you think he's like a little wiser to these things? He falls for them all the time because it's like that's how you make friends.
So sad.
So it's like he's always stuck in some weird loop of like it's his turn to do the thing. And so the craziest one was this drink called Zrii, Zrii.
Never.
Do you know
No. I hear about a new thing, like made up word called Zrii. That's a pyramid scheme, and I just like I'm horrified. But anyway, go on.
Oh yeah, I think it's Deepak Chopra, a drink, and I think it was like acai berry drink or something.
Is he Mormon?
No.
Oh, okay.
But it was like, he's some holy man. So let's slap his name on this.
Okay,
You're supposed to drink it all the time. And it was really confusing because I was like, I don't understand how this is a pyramid scheme, because why can't you just buy the drink, the product, and you have to like order
it's the juicero.
Yeah, it's wild. And so then my dad made my older brother, who was like a broke college student, buy a year's supply of Zrii, because he's like, if I get that, I really want this barbecue. And he's like, I just need one more. So can you do that? And he's like, I'll pay for it, but you got to do it under your name. And so my dad got this barbecue and he loved it. It was great. Wow. But it's just like,
what? You meat from DI?
Yeah, I don't know. But it's just like, I feel like I'm like, in any other state, like a lawyer dad would never fall for this. But in Utah, it's all
it's
no matter what.
Yeah,
it's the culture. Everyone, I mean, they all do, like, it's a lot of stay-at-home moms. So it's like, they all have their little business with their jewelry or their leggings or their makeup. You know, it's just like very big, very strange. Utah is wild.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Nature.
Oh, yeah. So beautiful.
They could have had some more. There were some nice background shots, but I felt like for how close Leeds is to Zion National Park, kind of missed the mark.
I don't think you can shoot in a national park, though.
But like, I've driven through Leeds. It's very beautiful.
Instead, they green screen Costa Rica into the portal.
Wow.
Because it said it was shot in Costa Rica.
That's right. All the jungle scenes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
No, it's
interrupt.
okay. It's crazy because I was like, they literally picked like the dry bush of like someone's like alley. Like so like, I was like, where are you filming this? I've been to Utah. There's the glorious mountains. Southern Utah is all like amazing desert. Like, it's like, I don't know what they were doing.
Yeah. I think we were saying how it's like clearly the same like 15 square foot area and like someone's backyard that they shoot all of the outdoor scenes in.
Yeah, she managed to pick up the same stick every time she was attacked. Like, it was wild. Yeah. But that was also confusing because when they go between these worlds, I was like, is it supposed to be just time in that they're going back to a time where Utah was lush and green, or are they going down, like going in time and also jumping location? That was like the one thing I was like, I'm very confused by this.
Yeah.
It's like 12 monkeys. That's what I always think whenever I watch
12
that.
tribes.
12 tribes.
12
monkeys.
Yeah. I don't know what tribe I am, but you know.
Yeah. So, you were saying you get assigned a tribe. And
yeah, this one. Yeah. So I guess you do this. I don't know what it's called. I forget the name of it. It's like there's a fancy name for it. But as an adult, when you hit some certain milestone or whatever, you get this like reading basically that is like telling you who you are and kind of like your future, like what you will accomplish, like what you can do or whatever. And one of the big things is you're told which tribe of Israel you are descended from. And you're not supposed to tell anybody.
Wow.
That's for you and yourself to know only. And again, my dad and my brother won't tell me, and they get really mad when I'm like, yo, tell me which tribe. I was like, you get a good one, you know? And they're like, no, I'm not going to tell you. So I'm a little bummed because I'm like, it's like I didn't get to go to Hogwarts and I didn't get to do this.
Yeah,
like, I could have.
get to know if you were like a Slytherin. Or
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, am I the Slytherin of Israel? You know?
Right.
Like, I'm so sad that I missed out on that. It's like there's so many things. If they just told me, I had some stuff to look forward to. You know, I might have been on my 7th kid and married right now. You know,
Who reads the tea leaves to you though? Is this like an experienced elder, or is this your local Greg at the time?
No, it's not your Greg. I think you go to somebody.
Okay.
It's like a big thing. Like, and like. It's really funny because like my dad again is in Utah and like so he's like in Salt Lake City and stuff, so he can like every now and then like hit up like the quorum. Okay, well again, bureaucracy, there's like the prophet and then there's like a certain number and then there's like a quorum of 12 and then there's like 84. It's like it's very like it looks like its own political system. Which, because I remember as a kid, I used to always confuse presidents and prophets because they like sounded and looked the same. Yeah. But my older brother is trans. And so when he came out to my dad was like, okay, well, you know, before you transitioned, you were like, had come out as a lesbian. We knew that was bad. So he's like, I went to go talk to one of the quorum members and I asked and I said, okay, so what's this? Is this okay? The trans thing can they go to heaven? And they're like, well, we don't really have anything on that. He's like, so you're good. It's okay. Wow. So I think you're good. They don't have a rule on that yet. So like,
that's cool. Like, there's a loophole.
Yeah, like I don't know now. They might have now that there's like more awareness. They might have closed
it's
that.
like Delta 9 or whatever that new weed is.
But yeah, it was just really funny that it's like your kid comes out of trans and the first thing you're like, let me go check the rule book.
Check the rule book.
Yeah, let me go figure out how you can get in.
Bud.
Yeah,
there's nothing in the rules.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just
that rocks.
It's so like I'm saying, like everything about like Mormonism to me is like just like all these like little rules and things that you have to do and like checklists and like paperwork and all this stuff. Like getting excommunicated is like really hard and like it's or trying to leave, getting off your name off the list, the rolls, like you know.
It's so funny because like bureaucracy is such like the hatred of bureaucracy is such like an intrinsic American value, but like people love bureaucracy if it's like something fun. If like you're like, well, at the end of as soon as you finish all this paperwork, you're gonna be God.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Kind of makes them a little bit different because while they're very Republican, a lot of them hated Trump. They weren't all guaranteed Trump lovers. Yeah. So Mormons, there is a level of Mormons that are like, that's too crazy for me. Like I want order and I can't go as far as Biden, but let me get Romney's the man.
Well, we almost had Romney.
Yeah.
And who was that other guy who ran in 2016?
Oh, I forgot his name.
Like, I think won in Utah.
He won in Utah. It was like, I forget his name. I feel like it was a double first name kind of guy, but
Evan McMullen?
Yes, Evan, there we go. Evan,
McMullen, yes.
So yeah, I knew a lot of Utah Mormons that were like, I hate Trump, but I'm like also like, but you gonna go Biden maybe? And they're like, no.
Well, that explains like Mitt Romney's whole thing, why he was like so comfortable being so outspoken about it.
Yeah,
he like, didn't have to worry about losing an election.
I didn't put that together. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, like speaking of how like this film, sort of reaffirms like those Mormon values and stuff. I wanted to mention that like basically the final conclusion of this film, after all of the battles, all the like time warping and jungle stuff, Kerra gets to say her goodbye to her imaginary friend, Kidani. And, it's pretty clear that she's never going to see him again type situation. And I'll put in the audio clip, but she's basically like, well, how can I honor you? How can I remember you? And he's like, read the Book of Mormon, like learn about my people.
I love you too, Sakira.
What am I supposed to do?
Learn of me. The book. Learn of my people, of the Messiah. We'll meet again. We will meet again.
I believe it. I know it.
And I thought that was beautiful. Like
Yeah.
that is how you, a teen girl, can honor your like hot, imaginary, like exotic crush, is you can read the Book of Mormon.
And they did kiss then too. So
That's true. Yes.
good move.
Yes. Imbuing the teachings of the Book of Mormon with kind of an erotic flair. I love that. I think it's genius.
Well, and she clearly wasn't Mormon. And so
Yeah.
he converted her in the best way possible.
Yeah.
And he was like, you want to see me be Mormon so that we can end up in the same afterlife, because we're like, that's like, I think the most beautiful thing about Mormon religion. So we talked a little bit about why my mom converted, and I know why my dad converted as a 20-year-old black man in North Carolina. He converted because he lost both his parents when he was young. And for him, it was like, this was a religion that said, without a doubt, we know 100% that you will see your family again. We believe in eternal like family, and that you will spend your family, you will have your forever eternity with your family when you die. And like that to me is, I think, the biggest appeal to the church. It's like, it's not about like, oh, you have to be good or you'll go to hell, this or that. It's like, we're promising you that you will be with your family forever. Like, we believe like this, the afterlife is not something to fear, you know? And I think it's really resonates for a lot of people, and clearly for my dad, who was like, had been, you know, wanting to be with his parents, you know? And so like this religion gave him that, you know? So I think that's like, so, you know, so I think that's kind of like what he's saying at the end is like, yeah, become Mormon and be with me forever.
And you all go to heaven.
Yeah.
And you may not be on the same level, but you can take a
we can visit
elevator.
You. The ups can go downs.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Any other favorite moments from the film before we give it our final rating?
Oh yeah, I had one. So Brock, who's from Los Angeles, takes his cousin from Leeds to the movies, and he's like, "How about this one?" And he's like, "Oh no, we can't see that." And he's like, "How about this one? It's only PG-13." And his cousin says, "My mom says for some of them, I'll never be 13."
It's rated R. So what? We buy a ticket for something else, then we do the old switcheroo. Nah, if my mom caught me, I'd be toast. All right, fine. Let's just see this one. It's PG-13. So, I'm not 13. You've got to be kidding. My mom says for some movies like that, I'll never be 13. That's child abuse. Man, just forget it.
And I found that really relatable. It was pretty cool. But we never even found out if they saw a movie or not. I wanted a little more. Like, are you going to watch a movie or not? Did you settle on something else?
That was like a 10-second scene. Easily could have been cut from this film.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was so telling and relatable. You know what I mean? I get why it was there, even though it was like completely superfluous.
Yeah, and there's so few location changes in this movie, and they're pretty much almost all during the day. It was just strange to have this one like night scene at the movie theater for.
Maybe that was like a little shout out to the kids that are watching this movie. I don't know. Maybe it's like you're a kid, you're watching this film. It's probably because you're not going to like go to the movie theater and see, you know, fucking.
Yeah. Or it could have been like his favorite movie theater, because he was like a film guy when he started, appealing specifically to like, said he got his start with like some young Sundance filmmaker award.
In school he went to BYU to like for film, because I saw like his films, and I think he got like some award for Sundance Institute. Yeah,
definitely a guy who thinks of himself as a filmmaker first and an author second, even though he's much more successful as an author.
Well, I mean,
I feel like that was like The Shape of Water, when the monster goes into the movie theater. And it's like, oh, that's Guillermo del Toro. He obviously has some self-esteem issues because he's a fish monster.
Team, let's give Passage to Zarahemla, 2007 film. Let's give it the official Boys Bible Study rating. What did we think of this one?
I really enjoyed this Mormon fantasy film. It was a lot of fun. I thought the star did a great job. I'm genuinely surprised she wasn't in more things than she was, really just a few titles under IMDb. I'm going to have to give this 7 out of 7 violins hanging from a tree.
That's a perfect score right there for a perfect film, I have to say.
Okay, so obviously I come in very excited because of the history with the book series and how I was like, I've never seen it on the screen and it's amazing. But I think I have to say what I loved most about it was how little it was about actually being a Mormon, and it wasn't pushing anything. It was like great, and you're so used to Mormon stuff being like really preachy and proselytizing. So I will give this 11 out of 11 baptisms for the dead.
Whoa.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
that's a perfect score right there.
You raise a good point, because it was like watching, if this was non-Mormon Christian movie, it would be like having a completely secular movie, and then at the very end somebody just being like, by the way, read the Bible.
Right.
And that was like their parting advice to the person.
Right.
Well, I love this movie. I want to see we got, Scott knows this, we got moron movies. I want to see more Mormon movies.
Dude, we haven't even scratched the surface. Like, you don't even know.
Moron movies? You know what I'm talking about.
I love moron movies.
It's like this guy's from the 80s did like basically like TikToks before they were TikToks.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you can find them on YouTube. But I want to see that, but with Mormon stuff. So I'll give this 100 golden plates.
Well, as for my rating for this film, I am going to say this was a perfect movie in every way. I got to learn about the secret history of the United States, and my mind is expanded. For me, this film, 12 out of 12 tribes of Israel. I'm telling you guys, this was an absolute banger. So shout outs to our director, Chris. What the fuck is this guy's name?
Chris Heimerdinger.
Chris Heimerdinger. Shout outs to Chris Heimerdinger. Big fan of your only film here. Daniela, thank you so much for showing this, talking us through this movie. There was so much context that we wouldn't have gotten had it not been for your experience. So really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no problem. Love talking Mormon lore.
It was seriously fascinating. I have so many more questions for you. And we'll keep talking about this. But to all listening, thank you so much. If you have not yet subscribed to our show, please check out boysbiblestudy.com. You can find all our free episodes there and subscribe to hear what we come up with in the future. New episodes almost every Sunday on every podcast platform. Also, if you really like our stuff and want to support, we invite you to check out patreon.com/boysbiblestudy, where if you subscribe for $5 a month or more, you get access to 2 or more bonus episodes we make every month. But also, we want to shout out our very special patrons at the $20 tier. If you bump your pledge up to $20, you get to be one of our patron saints, and we shout you out on every episode. Thank you so much to Nicole, Russell, Marissa, Jeff, and Jane. Really appreciate your generous support. Our outro music is Oh My God by Mary. Stream Mary's music on Bandcamp and Spotify. From all of us here at Boys Bible Study, myself, Ash, my co-hosts, Scott and Julian, our guest today, Daniela, we would like to say, peace be with you.
And also with you.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I feel your love in me, it's coming from within. Oh my God, my devotion is so unwavering. Divine emotions when you enter me. Every day